Hello, everyone. This is Disney-Pixar Brave, this is a...
Checking in. I'm still a piece of
Oh,
garbage.
sorry about that. I don't know why it does that. Let's get rid of all of that. And, so yeah. Hopefully this is not how the run goes. I'm very, very sorry about that. This is a top-down shooter, if you can call it that, since it's a Disney game. And I'm joined here with Conception.
Yeah, I got to intro myself briefly as you disappeared from the chat there for a second. But yeah, my name's Conception too. I don't run this game, but I'm good friends with Steve, and I'm a pretty big Disney fan, and I'm excited to commentate this run with him.
All right. So from what I understand is that the guard mail is the winner for the bid war, correct?
That is correct. Yep, Yardmail is the winner for the costume choice bid war.
All right, so we're gonna go with it. And the timing will not start right when I hit the start button here, but we're gonna go into it. So if you've seen the story of Brave, I'll throw that completely out of the water because the game actually starts out already where Mom is already the bear. And if you haven't seen the movie, I'm sorry, but that's what happens. So I don't know how. I know Conception said that he made some notes, so I'll once I get the timing started, then I'll have Conception do a little bit here. So timing begins here in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, yeah, so we're going to see Steve. Basically, we're in the tutorial section of the game, more or less. So there's not too much in terms of like movement tech or anything that he can do. A little bit on the rails for this beginning part, but he will be starting in just a bit, not quite yet, starting to collect some coins that he's going to use for upgrades. And those upgrades are over the course of the run, not right away. We'll do things such as improve his speed with dodge rolling, increase his power, increase the ability to gain power. Things like that. So a good chunk of what we're going to be doing is breaking environment pieces and getting as many coins as we can. But this first segment here is just chasing Mom and jumping over trees.
And then we're going to go right into a cutscene, which you won't be seeing at all. Luckily, we can skip most of the cutscenes. There are some unskippable cutscenes, and that's where some of the bad lines come in my opinion. They're completely useless.
Yeah, most of the cutscenes in this are useless. They don't further the story too much. It's just looking over the horizon at something and then realizing that you can now take control. But what we're seeing here now is Steve breaking a bunch of pots, a bunch of plants, everything he can to get coins as fast as possible. You also notice he grabbed the chest, which obviously gave him his first weapon of the game, which is going to be the sword. But don't worry, if you've seen the movie, we're going to get that signature weapon here in just a minute or two.
So you can see I can hit the Y button to open up the chest a little bit sooner than you would normally. Normally you would think you would have to go and hit right next to the chest, but however it allows for you to open it up a little bit earlier, and we're actually going to be using that to our advantage later on in the game as well for some puzzles that we're going to be doing.
Yep, this is a Disney game, so you know it's got to have some puzzles, but as you can see, this is kind of like a quote-unquote top-down shooter. It's kind of like from an interesting perspective. It kind of changes camera angles depending on the area, but it's in terms of combat, we're going to be doing a lot of bow shooting, and then obviously we have our sword action a little bit, and then it's going to be interjected with some other fights, some puzzle solving, and things like that. Coming up here, one of those excellent cutscenes that we can't do anything about. Let's just look at this bear, and now we can play again.
Alright, and up next is the wall jumping. Merida does not like to jump half the time, so I just have to hope that she cooperates half the time here.
Yeah, you're gonna notice through the run that there's there's platforming sections all throughout, and jumping and dodge rolling in this game, it can be a tiny bit inconsistent, especially the wall jumps. You can be hitting inputs and you'll just get ghost inputs, and it's just not going to let Merida get to where you want her to go.
All right, and another one of the cutscenes that you can skip. And now we're gonna follow the will-o'-the-wisps to the witch's hut. And we're going to get our first power-up. We're actually going to be collecting 4 power-ups throughout the entire run, and that's going to be the ground, the fire, wind, and ice. We are not the Avatar. We don't have all of those powers, but we do have ice instead of water.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically with these 4 charms throughout the game, obviously we're going to be adding more and more of these charms, and which gives us a little bit more not only different like damage types, which will be unique for fighting, but there's also going to be platforms and stuff that will only unlock with certain charms. So for example, if you're going in water, you're going to see a you know, maybe like an ice charm pop up in the water that Steve's going to shoot with the ice charm, which will create a nice platform for him to jump on. And that's kind of how it works.
So coming up right here, there's a crow. We're going to see this crow 3 more times after this, but every time it shows up, I want everybody to say caw. So get ready to say your caws.
Caws in the chat. Caws in the chat.
Caw.
Caw. You can also see, so you can see here we have all these portals. And we're not going to get to see it quite yet, but what's going to happen is these kind of act as our, you know, going towards different worlds. And when Steve exits a world in preparation to go to a new one, he's going to kind of roll towards the door in hopes that he can get in before the animation plays. So we'll get to see that in a little bit. For now.
So right now I have to get, like Inception was saying, I need to get a certain amount of coins for an item coming up, which will help us out a lot with the movement style, and that will be the dodge roll. I'm just collecting all of the money that I can at the moment, just randomly scattered about. Flowers, basically anything that you see laying around, I'm able to pick up and use for money.
And yeah, Steve's gonna have this fight sequence here with these wolves. You can see that rock that's kind of swirling. That is what our upgrade stations are going to be in the game. Are going to be these various rocks. They're usually accompanied right before it with a fight sequence where Steve has to clear the enemies before he can access the upgrades.
All right. So another thing to point out is all these fights are, as you saw, I was already shooting at some of the enemies before I even got to them. They're usually going to be in the same areas throughout the entire time. So as long as I'm aiming in the spot, I'll be able to hit them.
Good as it gets.
So here we go. We have our movement tech, which we're going to be using almost throughout the entire, well, actually throughout the entire game, and that is the dodge roll. That was what we needed with the 250. And then we go into our first set of Triplets Puzzles. There are quite a few of these throughout the entire run. In almost every single level there is one of these, and as long as you know what you're doing, then it'll always be the same.
Yep, they are mostly straightforward, easy puzzles to solve. We'll see a couple, we're going to see plenty of these triplet puzzles in the run, and we're going to see a few later. We have some like nifty little quick puzzle solves that we'll get to do, but for the most part, it's just solving a puzzle as fast as you can.
Careful.
Alright, I'm not going to try for it. Oops, well, I'll run into the wall there, though. You can shoot through here and hit this, hit that, Vargas, statue there and get the money beforehand, but I usually never hit it, so I just don't try for it anymore.
Yeah, those statues, you're going to see Steve hit pretty much anyone that comes across with a few exceptions, and that is because, as you could plainly see, they give you a ton of money, which we still need, even though we got our first upgrade, the dodge roll, Steve is going to still need tons of money to get some key item upgrades later on and damage upgrades later on, so we're still going to be trying to collect as many coins as we can.
So here's the next statue that I'm going to be hopefully hitting. Nope, okay, that's fine. And then we're going to roll over here and pass this guy. So this is the first symbol that you see. As you see above his head there, he has the fire symbol. That means that his weakness is fire. That'll be our next upgrade that we're going to be getting. So right here, we're going to jump up and get that. That's good. Before we go into another cutscene. And so, since I hit it before the cutscene, it'll already be open by the time I'm out. And now we're going to go into this area. So one thing that I skipped over, you'll see all these will-o'-the-wisps around my body here. Those will-o'-the-wisps allow for you to have more power in your attack. So I'm gonna try and have that as much as possible throughout the game. But sometimes it's much better to just not worry about having the will-o-wisp. But this first level is pretty straightforward and not super difficult to keep.
Yeah, the more power Steve's gonna have here, the more of a chance that he's gonna have to do some power attacks. Which are obviously attacks that do massive amounts of damage. He's not going to use them a lot on these smaller mobs. Mainly he uses them on bosses and things of that nature, but we're going to see a few times that he's going to use them on, you know, larger enemies in smaller areas, or even some environment pieces that we'll see towards the end of the game.
So right here is a little bit of an interesting area. We have to get the berries there to heal Mom, the cutscene will happen once you stand next to this after you defeat all the enemies, but if you're standing right next to it, the cutscene will happen instantaneously after you fight the last enemy.
I've got to bring this back to Mom.
Yep, and just shortly after this, we're going to bring the berries back to Mom, and we're going to get one of our classic, what we call Mom fights, which is when we're going to take over as Mom for a second as a bear and do some bear combat.
Here. This should help.
Yeah, and with this bear combat, if you want to read any donations, or if there is anything you want to promote, go for it.
No worries, thanks very much. So, first off, I just want to let everyone know about the upcoming bid for our next run of Pedestrian Hollister. You can choose between male or female players. We currently have no bids on that one, so make sure you get your donations in and you can bid towards that. Also, just want to remind everyone that your donations are going to raise money and to support Crisis, a charity supporting people out of homelessness for good. And here's a little bit more about what they do in their own words. So we help homeless people find and keep a rented home. We do this by working with landlords to ensure a supply of places to live and giving homeless people the tools and knowledge they need to rent successfully. Our Housing Resource Centre provides information and training for housing professionals that help to rent databases of private sector renting schemes across the UK. So all your donations are going, 100% of them are going towards supporting Crisis. They're a great charity helping out the homeless. So please make sure you give donations.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do, yeah.
So what you saw right there is I had a, oh crap, okay, that's fine. I had some switches that I had to stand in. Those will always be in the same order, obviously. So as long as you know which order to hit them in, then you can roll for them to get to them a little bit faster.
Yep, and then you might have seen briefly in that fight, Steve had to deal with a few enemies that did have that fire emblem over their head, which Steve now just got his fire charm. So you notice there that he did a little bit more sword damage as opposed to bow damage, just because it's closer to, and you can attack a little bit faster. But now that Steve is upgraded with fire, you're going to see how quickly these enemies can just go down 1 or 2 shots at most.
Alright, and now we're gonna get our second upgrade. Our second upgrade, can you explain what the second upgrade is?
Let's see, so we have dodge. Is this one? I actually don't remember what this one is. Oh,
this is the power attack.
Okay, yes. So what power attack is kind of like what I mentioned before. Steve has the ability to do power attacks that do a lot of extra damage. Like I said also before, Steve's not going to be doing these on smaller mobs, really. He's going to be mainly focusing these on when he uses the bosses. There's going to be a couple times where there are larger enemies within smaller mobs that he's going to use just to take them out quickly. But for the most part, we're going to be using them on bosses. We might also be using them elsewhere on environment pieces or things of that nature.
All right, and now we're going on to our next Triplets Puzzle, and this is another just straightforward puzzle. I'm going to bring one of them up here, and we're going to turn this really quick. Then we're gonna bring both of the other ones up here. Actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and bring this one over here. I was thinking ahead of myself here. Then we're gonna release that, turn this, and move up. And when we get up to the top here, we want to make sure that we do jump, otherwise you will fall down. There is a little hole there that will make you fall all the way back down.
Yes.
It's not nice.
Platforming is key. All right, yeah, I mean, we're seeing Steve tear through these. We're gonna grab this chest just to, or that was a statue, I believe, just to get some extra coins. As we said, we're still upgrading constantly throughout the run. We're still in need of coins. And here, Steve is going to perform the first skip in the game, which, as you can see, is going to be platforming up the side here, kind of around these spikes, which allows him to skip a somewhat lengthy fight sequence. And instead of fighting them, he can just jump entirely around it and begin wall jumping up to the next platforms.
Mom and Dad used to walk me through this forest all the time.
You will also see, as well as Steve's getting into a little bit more of like smaller platforms here, and because we're using roll much more often, that Steve is going to be able to do rolls off of platforms, and it seems like he's going to fall into the water or fall into, you know, getting damage or fall to his death. But the animations for Merida's movement are quite a bit delayed, where he can roll and then still get his double jump action off of the roll. So he's able to, you know, kind of pin together some swaggy movement, or make it so that obviously, since dodging is faster, that he can optimize platforms. Instead of jumping them, he can roll into them and move them quite a bit faster.
Nice. Because I had my all of my Will-o'-the-wisps, there is a lot faster.
All right, didn't quite make that, but yeah, what you saw there, what the tech is when we enter back into that main world, he rolls immediately towards the portal that he's meant to be going into, and if you're just fast enough, you can enter the portal before that like glowing animation begins. But now we are in Coastal Cliffs, the next area. We got, I know Steve likes to do a little swaggy jump coming up here. He likes to show off, doesn't save much time, but whoop, there we go.
Oh, come on. He's never hit me there before.
The air is so clean and fresh. Once all this mess is cleared up.
Alright, so now we're going into another one of our useless cutscenes, just showing Mordew. Most of these cutscenes are just going to be showing off Mordew doing something that causes damage. He's not very nice.
Yep, not too nice at all. You saw there right before we entered that Mordew cutscene that there was that little symbol that Steve passed by. That is the symbol for the air charm, which we'll be getting here shortly. Air charm, just like the other charms in terms of platforming, helps create platforms for us to, you know, get over things. Mainly, we end up like doing these little jumps. For example, that one, I believe, if Steve had gone for it, would have unlocked some kind of other costume, I believe.
Yes.
So we don't need it in the run, obviously, but there are all kinds of, you know, secrets and platforms and stuff that we will be either utilizing or passing on by if it doesn't, you know, isn't required for the 80% category.
So that jump that I just did there, that double jump down to that, saves just a tad bit. It's something I found last night while I was running the game, and it helps out a little bit with, it got me my world record last night.
Yeah, yep, and there was actually a little bit of piece of speed tech there as well. We saw that Steve was, there was quite a few enemies, including like that stone giant type enemy, and Steve was standing on a platform in order for the door to open. Instead of standing on the platform, clearing the enemies, and then going through when able, as soon as the door was open enough for Steve to pass through, he just rolls on through, skips past those enemies, and just, you know, speeds it up a little bit. Voila, we got the air charm.
One thing that I wanted to mention is you'll see me use the fire power up a lot, because I always believe that the fire power up, until we get the wind charm, or the ice charm, is actually the fastest attacking power up in the entire game.
I was going to bring this up earlier, and it makes sense because a vast majority of the enemies, just based on appearance alone, you would imagine that fire is what they're weak against because they're either made of ice or grass/trees or something like that. And then obviously we'll have some stone enemies, which fire might not work well, but it seems like a vast majority of the enemies are weak to fire.
Well, not just that, like, it's also like shoots, the arrows are shot faster out of those as well.
Yes, that makes sense.
Thank you for not hitting me.
I'm not afraid of heights.
Yeah, it's really good that you're not afraid of heights because you've been running in heights for a long time now. Some of the lines in this are just ridiculous, in my opinion. So these enemies, you don't need to worry about running into them. They do not hurt you at all if you run through them, because they just like to explode if you get close to them. And if you just roll past them, they just completely just explode while you run past them.
Yep, you can roll right through them without taking damage, and in fact, we're not going to fight a single one of those until close to the end of the game where we have to, and that is because we can't move on until they're dead. All right, we have another fight sequence here. You know, classic. This is a classic game mechanic. You know, there's an area, tons of enemies spawn. You can't move on until the enemies are all defeated. Classic stuff.
I decided. So that was the first time that you saw the power up down at the bottom. If you use it up, you get like a lot more power on your attacks as well as you like kind of glow. I just used it on that time just so I could finish up that fight a little bit faster. That's all it really does for us. But that's why we also want to power it up. And that power up that I got this ability with, that's going to be the last one until like the second to the last level. We're not going to do any more upgrading until then.
Yeah, Steve has to be a little tiny bit careful on platforming here. You saw that stone giant is throwing rocks at us. If Steve wasn't a bit careful, we can get hit with the rock, and whenever you're hit with the rock in mid-air, you drop where you are. So if Steve was mid-jump, he would have dropped it right into the water, which would have done a considerable amount of damage, which we do not want to deal with. So yeah, you'll see that over the course of the game that we're going to have to be doing that a few times, watching out for projectiles as we're jumping across platforms.
Alright, this is another just straightforward path here. And then, like I said, if you hit the Y button a little bit before you're supposed to get there, it'll push the triplets up to the levers that they're supposed to pull just a tad bit sooner than you would normally.
Yep, yeah. Other than that, nothing really to report. That's my dog in the background. Apologies.
Alright. Now, I usually, one thing to point out is I go ahead and hit these portals a lot faster by just using my sword to do it, because it allows for it to get destroyed a lot faster than it normally would. We have one more guy that we still have to worry about. I was just a little bit too fast, and he came out a little bit later. There we go. And with that, we'll go through the portal there.
Yeah, Steve, slow down. We're not trying to speedrun here, okay?
I went to the wrong portal, that's fine. I was a little bit ahead of myself there.
We're gonna see that animation skip once, I guarantee it. Alright, welcome to Chilled Creek. Any guesses as to what power-up we're gonna get in this level?
And you would think that a lot more enemies would be weak against fire in an ice world, but actually, not that many. Like, some at the very beginning here, but, other than that, no.
There is a little piece of speed tech here, which is that, as you can see, this is an area where Steve has to clear enemies until the door opens. If he's able to, Steve is going to try to stay as close to the door as possible as he's clearing these enemies out, just so that when the door opens, he can, start moving immediately towards it and crossing through. That last giant gave him a little bit of trouble, which is why he was a little bit far away, but otherwise, a perfect fight.
I always forget what I have to do here. Because I know it's really close to this area here.
Yep, same thing here. So he's going to try and clear these enemies while staying pretty close to the bridge. Voila. Say hello to your ice charm.
So, Ice Charm is the second fastest, or pretty much the fastest attacking item in the entire game. So we're going to be using this quite a bit next to the fire, but I just like using the fire a little bit better. And right here we're coming up on our second skip of the entire game.
Yeah, so you're going to see there's a big fight sequence here that has a portal, and Steve's just going to whoop right around it. Don't need to worry about it.
Okay, really? Really, Merida? Thank you.
Yeah, this is a common occurrence when it comes to these sections. So Steve obviously is trying to shoot his ice charm arrows so that he can get as many platforms as possible. Merida's targeting system is suspect at best, so you're going to notice that sometimes you would hope that Merida is targeting straight in front of her to the platforms you want unlocked. But for example, if there are enemies around, Merida's going to prioritize enemies over platforms, or for like you saw briefly there, maybe she'll prioritize the ground. You know, you just never know.
They're so jittery.
Didn't even realize I walked off there. So here's another complete fight sequence that we completely skip over. You can just jump around to the very edge and just roll past everybody.
You love to see it.
Now, as you can kind of tell, this is mostly glitchless speedrun, but if anybody is interested in running the game, please do so, because I am the only active runner of this entire game. I didn't start the speedrun, I joined in later on, and then somebody showed me how to do that skip after they joined in, but then they never played it ever again after that. So, if you're interested, it's available on the... I'm playing on the Xbox Series X. It's available on the 360, the Xbox One. And I believe it's on the PC as well as, I believe, the PlayStation as well.
Yeah, and you will see here. So throughout these sections, we see a puzzle here. I believe this puzzle is going to come back, and we'll see it a little bit later on. So remember how Steve solves this puzzle, because it's going to look oddly familiar later on, for one. But two, as we're platforming here as well, Steve will be just a bit mindful about his health here, because the more health he has, the more of a risky in terms he can be of platforming. If his health was relatively low, he's going to have to take his platforming relatively safe. Because in this game, if you fall off platforms, it's not necessarily that you're going to die, you're just going to take some damage. But if you take enough damage, obviously that means you're going to die. So he's going to just be a little bit mindful of his health as he navigates these platforms, as well as the ice ones in the river there.
Yeah, the ones on the river are probably the worst. And, like, this isn't the only level that we're going to be doing it either. It continues on.
Yeah, we'll get into it a little bit later in the run, but the game definitely scales in difficulty in terms of platforming and even in terms of enemies. So we're going to be as the game progresses, we're going to be more and more mindful of what our health is and being a little bit careful to not die. All right, the triplets strike again with a puzzle here. You love to see it.
All right, this is the one that I was talking about earlier. We're going to send both of them right there. Then we're going to turn this. We're going to move the first triplet over, then this one over here. We're going to release this one, move it on, and then double tap to bring this up, and then we're going to finish the puzzle. Which, if I had to guess, is probably ever so slightly faster than what the game intends you to do, which is to rotate the platform and take a bears one at a time. But we're going fast. We wanted to solve this as fast as we can, so. It's also worth mentioning that we, just in terms of the story, like the triplets are always where we need them to be, and we never see them like move anywhere. So it's interesting how they navigate. Well, you can also say that for Mom as well. True. That's a good point. We don't see anybody besides Merida really until Mom fights her triplet puzzles. So. Oh wow, this was good RNG. Yeah, like we were saying before, Merida tends to prioritize enemies when shooting these arrows, and Steve is getting relatively lucky with his platforming here. He doesn't need to kill any of these enemies, he can bypass them, but luckily Merida's targeting is really in favor for Steve right here. These dogs. These are bad dogs. This is the only time that I'll say I need to kill the dogs, okay? And then these are the boars, right? Yeah, we got some boars here as well. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna use my power up here. Finish them off really quick. Yep, that is a good instance of when Steve is going to use those power up. We get those giants, and obviously you can take them out pretty quickly without it, but even more quickly when you are able to use it. And it's not terribly hard for him to regain power, especially since he uses it so infrequently.
he'll be able to have it, available to him when he next needs it most. Another great cutscene here. We got Mordu. We're surprised. There's roaring, and a little bit more anger, of course.
And then Merida says,
So this won't be getting any easier now, will it?
and that's the cutscene. Completely useless once again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's necessary for the story. All right. Anyway, the next area Steve's going to be moving into is Buried Passage. Nope, still didn't get that animation skip. We're gonna get it. I know we are. It's really, really tight. So, the farther away the platforms, the harder it is to get. And Buried Passage is one of the farthest away from the spawn point. So, but yeah.
All right, I really like this level. This actually has quite a bit of movement tech with it, and it's just a fun level. I always wonder what my favorite level is, and this might be it.
Yeah, this one's a really cool one. I like it. I like the design and the aesthetic probably more than the other levels.
All right, here's these guys, and this is where oh good, she helped me out here. That's where the aiming can also screw you up once again. So this is one of my favorite parts of the level right here is this fight. It's really fun. It's just really chaotic when you watch it, just because there's constant fire everywhere throughout the entire fight. It's all the same enemies too, so you don't need to worry about changing out different power-ups as well.
Yeah, it's a good fight. I was just thinking personally as well. Merida's firing these arrows at rapid pace. She's got to be like, at least in terms of her biceps, she's got to be ripped. Like just firing all these arrows constantly throughout the run. Like that must be exhausting on the bicep.
By the way, that was a really good fight there. Usually they don't go in the way that I need them to.
Yep, and so Steve is going to be navigating this passage here. You're going to see these spikes come on the ground, and he's going to dodge those two different ways. One, by walking around them in order to get that statue there to get some coins. Or two, if you just roll through them, you don't have to worry about it. You just don't take the damage. It's fine.
All right, on to the worst enemies in the entire game. So can you explain a little bit about these little guys?
Yes, absolutely. So they're called Goblins, right? Do I have the name correct?
I believe. I don't know what they're called. I just...
Sure, we're gonna call them Goblins.
Terrible.
We're gonna call them Goblins. And Goblins are easily the most annoying enemy in the game in terms of small mobs for a couple of reasons. One, they move fast. They're much faster than other enemies. But two, they tend to spawn in large groups, and if they get close enough to Merida, they're going to steal her coins. And as you recall, coins are very important to us right now. So whenever goblins are going to appear on the screen, you're going to notice that Steve is probably going to prioritize them because, one, he doesn't want them to get away, and two, we don't want to lose any money.
You can pick the money back up, but also when they hit you and take all your money, you also get knocked down as well. And since they're so fast, they just constantly do it. They have like that rapid movement attack. They shoot out like poison breath. They just everything that you don't. Oh crap! Everything you don't like about the enemies is just gonna happen.
Yeah, everything they do to you just slows you down. As opposed to just getting hit and taking damage, it also just makes you slow, which we don't want to deal with as much as possible. So this particular platforming section that Steve did is a little bit tricky. If Steve gets lucky with his arrows, again, targeting system is suspect. He's able to get those platforms spawned early, just bypass those enemies even faster, but they decided to troll him a little bit. And, oh, yep, so we got to see what it looks like when Steve takes a platform fall. Again, doesn't really lose you much time. Just makes it so that you hop back to the platform you once were and taking a little damage. Luckily, Steve has been playing pretty clean thus far, so damage isn't something he has to worry about just yet. And loses minimal time, so not much of an issue.
All right. So we're going into our next mom fight. This is another good time if you have any donations or something to plug, go for it.
Yeah, fantastic. We have a $20 donation from our runner earlier, Myth. He says, here is $20 for the 4 failed ocarina glitches in the Minish Cap run. And he has put that towards our incentive for the tuxedo in Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. That particular incentive is currently sitting at $50 out of the 200 required, so that the tuxedo camel will be used in every room possible, making the difficult run much harder.
Come on.
Yeah, thank you so much for that donation. And you, just one thing to note there is that because this arena is a little bit bigger, so Steve was using a little bit of a combination of swipes and charges to try to clear enemies a little bit faster. But again, pretty much any time that these mom fights pop up on the screen, there isn't much in terms of tech. It's mainly about RNG of where the enemies spawn, and even that is minimal in terms of how it affects the run.
So something weird there is normally Merida has a climbing animation when she jumps up onto those walls at the very edge, but if you like repeatedly hit the jump button, it will cause her to go and do like a little bit of a I don't know why I'm doing this. Sorry. It will cause her to jump up a little bit faster instead of grabbing onto the wall.
Yep, and we're right. Obviously, as you can see here, we're in a triplet puzzle. It is also very straightforward. The only thing of note is Steve has to make sure that he pulls those levers out entirely. If those little barriers are sticking out even just a little bit, the solve of the puzzle will not trigger. So it's very important that once those levers are pulled out and then he flips the switch, then the water will shut off. It's a little bit finicky, this one is.
Alright. I just did it a little bit out of order there. If you have it out of order, then you really can't solve that correctly at all, because one of the triplets will get stuck behind a wall.
Yeah, we don't want that. We absolutely don't want that. We're getting somewhat close to the first boss that we will deal with in the game, which is pretty exciting. First, Steve is going to have these enemies here that will pop up here in a moment, and like any good enemy fight sequence, Steve is just going to roll past them and not have to worry about it. Voila.
Especially now, since I'm really low on health. As you saw, I've been just rolling through spikes. This is one of the few that I can just jump over and not take damage. Oh, I guess I did get hit somehow, but whatever.
Yep, and then like I said before, we're getting up to this first boss fight here in just a moment. You'll notice, just to preempt it a little bit, so when Steve enters the boss area, there's a little bit of platforming where the boss will just throw objects at us, which is really of no consequence because of the way Steve moves. It's a lot faster than any projectile cycle that the boss can throw at us. But in addition to that, when he gets to the boss itself, it gets a little bit more up close and personal. Steve is just going to be entirely...
No!
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay, we're good. All right. Yeah, a little panicky. Yeah, again, those enemies explode, and Steve's health is very low, so taking a fall there would have probably killed him, which we don't want to see.
Oh, good. We're fine. It brought health. That's the good thing about these enemies is if you're low health, the game actually prioritizes dropping health for you, which is really nice on their part.
Yeah, it's decently speed game friendly. The game was able to detect that Steve needed health, and like every enemy that he's killed in this fight sequence has dropped health, and voila, Steve is full health again. So it goes relatively quickly.
That's why I wasn't like too worried about health, except for when I fell down the hole there. But yeah, you get health back really fast in this, as long as they drop.
Yeah, unfortunately the game doesn't, when you're low health and you fail a jump, it's not like, oh, you jump into a vat of potion, unfortunately. So it doesn't help you with platforming, as it can only do so much.
Alright, I really like this boss. So can you explain what's going to be happening here?
Yeah, so I was talking about it a little bit before, so, well, Steve's gonna fall off a little bit there, but that's fine. And then, like we said, the boss fight starts with the boss throwing projectiles at us. As you can see, very slow. And Steve is going to be doing a very consistent movement pattern where he's going to be rolling and then single jumping, which means that the boss will never be able to keep up with his movement sequence. Then as he platforms over to the platform that the boss is standing on, you'll notice that there's going to be the boss and there's going to be smaller mobs of enemies as well, which Steve is not going to worry about the smaller enemies whatsoever. He's just going to get up close and personal with the boss in order to take it out as fast as possible. And as soon as the boss is defeated, all of those other mobs will despawn. So he's not going to be worried about them at all. You're also noticing here that he's going to be prioritizing sword over the bow, as it just has a higher FPS output. Even as fast as the bow shoots, it still has to land. So the sword damage is instantaneous, and we get that nice quick kill of the boss. Get your cause ready in chat.
Yep. We have another crow scene coming up. So
The blight. It's receding.
here he is, and cause.
Oh,
And now after we're done with that fight, we're just gonna roll up here and get back to the ring of stones. Here.
Yep, Ring of Stones, and as Steve is going to be heading to the next area, it will be the Swamp of Shadows. Very malicious sounding. There we got the we got there pretty fast there. Not too much in terms of tech with the Swamp of Shadows, at least at the beginning. We'll shortly here after entering the Swamp of Shadows, we'll be getting into a mom fight. So mainly then it's just clearing enemies and platforming until we get there.
Alright, and as you can see, the theme is bringing out all the goblins in the entire game just for this level alone.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's just it just wants to steal all of this money that we've been working so hard to get. I believe so. We only have one more upgrade station, I believe, that we're going to be using through the run, where we're just going to do a bunch of upgrades at once. And I believe the number that Steve is looking for in terms of coins is 4,000, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. It all depends. I know that I want to at least get the first set done, which is 3, 6, and 12, I believe. And then if I have enough, I go for the other side. So yeah, about 3 or 4,000.
Yeah. So the more money he has, the more he's able to upgrade at that time, which is going to make the ending sequences quite a bit easier. But for now, we're in another mom fight. So if we have any additional donations or plugs that we want to make, it's a great time for that.
Thank you very much. I just want to remind everyone they are watching the United Kingdom Speedrunning Gathering. Normally we're a 2-day speedrunning marathon held 4 times a year in Glasgow, Scotland. But obviously due to the current situation with COVID-19, we're staying safe and we're bringing you 3 days of exciting speedruns from the comfort of our own homes and TVs.
Wow, this is a terrible mom fight. Nobody was in the right place. Like, they all spawn in the same areas, but they can just get out of order really fast and it can go south.
Yeah, so yeah, it's like Steve was saying, they all spawn in the same areas, but it's mainly about the order in which they spawn. So you try to hope to predict the order in order to optimize your movement, but if you have it go like that one did, unfortunately you can't really control that. So Steve got a little bit unlucky with the enemy placement, which is the only factor that goes into mom fights.
Gonna take a risky here. See if I can get it off. Oh, I did. Good.
Very good. Yep, just bypass the spikes here. And Steve is going to be coming up here after.
On my favorite lines in the entire game. For some reason, this cutscene it's just hilarious to me because of how abrupt it ends. Bordeaux, you won't frighten me that easily, and then right into it. It seems like there needs to be more in that cutscene for some reason to me, so I just always like to imitate it.
Seems like there needs to be more in every cutscene that we get to see in the game, to be honest.
That's true.
It's all just about looking at the monsters and maybe a line from Merida, a little one-shot kind of line, and then we move on very quickly.
my legs are starting to get tired.
Alright, let's see if I can do this. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna let Steve focus on this while I describe a little bit what's happening. So there, you can see that there's this fight here. Steve is navigating to each portion of the switches here, and what he was attempting to do, which is what he succeeded in doing, is getting the door up just fast enough so that he can roll through it and bypass the rest of the fight sequence, which he did expertly.
And then I rolled off. Oops. And then I failed these.
Hey, that's fine. You got the speed tech good, so that's all we care about.
Please. Uh-oh. Okay, please, I need some help, thank you.
There we go. Yeah, again, getting a little bit dire with the health, but again, the game comes through for us, so we love to see it.
Alright, that's fine. I wasn't in the spot that I would like to be there, but that works out.
Certainly better than dying, that's for sure.
Alright, and in this game fashion, there's another fight sequence coming up right here, and I go so fast that the music just gives up.
Yeah, I might as well have just played the sad trombone sound instead, because he just bypasses it without the ability for it to play. Again,
those boars are such trolls.
Yeah, they're real gatekeepers. They like to keep Steve from progressing right through that path there, but still got by them pretty fast. Steve's going to be navigating these platforms, and we're getting relatively close here to yet another triplet puzzle.
And this puzzle is actually my favorite as well. This is why I really... Swamp with Shadows is a really good one too. Because coming up after the triplets... Well, actually, the triplets puzzle coming into the next area are two tech that I actually kind of found myself.
Yeah, again, I could talk a little bit about that as well as Steve's getting ready to do it here. So this triplet puzzle has a quicker solve than is by design. So you're going to see Steve is going to throw one bear up top at the switch who is going to control the platforms below. And what the game wants you to do is it wants you to rotate the switches, I think 3 times here. But what Steve's going to do is going to have one of the triplets hop to the second platform as the first one is disappearing so that he doesn't have to hit the switch an extra time. Which just saves an overall cycle there.
Yeah, and you would usually use all the triplets, but you only use two of them for that. And then we come into my favorite thing that I accidentally found here. If you just roll into this area and stand at the very corner, all of the enemies just come to you, so you don't have to worry about actually doing anything for that very beginning area.
Yeah, exactly. You notice in a lot of these fight sequences that Steve kind of moves around in a circular motion in order to get a lot of the enemies down as fast as possible. But nothing is faster than them all storming at you in one direction, so that Steve can just fire constantly in one direction and take out enemies as fast as possible. So that does save quite a small chunk of time there in order for him to clear out these enemies.
Really?
You can see another instance of Steve using his power attacks there just to clear out those larger giants a little bit faster. Alright, you gotta love the Indiana Jones sequence here as just dodge boulder after boulder.
Alright. And I've been doing an old technique, a technique through this area for a while, but then last night I decided to just try it a little bit differently, and they actually cooperated. Okay, good.
Yeah, what Steve is alluding to there is obviously he's dodging a lot of those enemies there on the bridge. If they are really close to him as he progresses right into this next area, they actually follow him into here, which just creates more of a distraction there. And I believe those were the goblin enemies too, so it's not like Steve wants to hang around and be friends with them or anything like that.
That was really good.
Yeah, that was a pretty effortless Swamp of Shadows, just really well done. We're getting ready to move into the second to last area of the run here, which is going to be Murky Chasm.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Steve's favorite, don't let him tell you otherwise.
I hate this level. This level has the worst boss in the entire game, plus all the like puzzles that you have to solve during this are very annoying.
Yeah, and
like right here you have to go up here while you're dodging birds. Normally, like if you were casually playing, you would want to get rid of them while you're climbing up there, but we don't have time to do that. So we just dodge all the birds, and with Merida's aiming, she obviously doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's very tricky stuff because obviously Steve is wanting to shoot upwards in order to get those platforms open as fast as possible. However, birds are aerial enemies, as it turns out. So Merida, again, will try to prioritize shooting the enemies as opposed to using platforms. which makes it a little bit tricky for Steve to navigate that part quickly. But he was able to get through that one pretty, you know, nonchalantly.
How did I open that up?
I don't know, but we'll take it. You know, we'll take anything we get. And as you're gonna see Steve here, hopping onto these platforms that are coated with fire. And you would think that they're pretty dangerous, but we're going to see here shortly that Steve is just going to be jumping on some fire platforms. Wow, Merida, thanks for the targeting there.
Yeah. Oh wow, how did it? Okay.
Yep.
I'll take that too.
Yeah. And that is just because Steve can afford to take a little bit of damage or hop around the platforms instead of shooting them, because it is just simply faster. So why not do it?
Yeah, most of these I will, but then right here I have to shoot all 3 of these. Otherwise, I'm just going to take a little bit too much damage here.
Yeah, basically any time that Steve could roll through the fire, obviously that means you're in the fire for a very small amount of time, so he can afford to take a little bit of damage. But because those platforms are so small, all Steve would have be able to do rather is jump on them, which is going to cause just a little bit too much damage for Steve's liking, so he will shoot those instead.
So I'm going to shoot these guys while I'm heading up to one of these puzzles again. Oh, cool. That was really good.
Yeah,
okay.
that one went really well. Yeah.
Yeah. That's Golem control you pretty hard.
Yeah, and the previous world record, besides, I don't remember if we mentioned this up at the top, but Steve was practicing for this run yesterday and got a new world record, which is excellent. Congrats to you on that. But previously, the world record he did at a run of USG, which is a sister marathon of UKSG and ESA here. And I was watching that run to review myself, and he got trolled really hard on that part, and he just had to take it a little bit extra slow and get up those platforms when he was able to. So that went quite a bit faster than that run.
All right, and now we are on to our last shopping spree of the entire game. After this, we won't have to worry about going out of our way to get any more coins.
Yep, and what Steve is going to be doing here is he's going to be entirely upgrading his power attack energy, which means that he will be getting energy faster. And then the second upgrade that he focused on is when he's damaging enemies, he will be additionally gaining power attack energy faster. So it's...
Oh, well, the first one was for attacking. The second one was for if I get hurt.
Okay, yeah, that's correct. So either way, it's going to make it so that Steve is able to use power attacks much more frequently because he can get that energy a lot faster. And if he is damaged, it will also help get him energy. So he's able to use that a little bit more, which is really key because we're going to have some larger fight sequences and bosses. Remember that puzzle from earlier? It's the same one, same puzzle.
I don't know why they decided to bring this puzzle back of all the puzzles. It's just flabbergasting to me. Like,
it's expert mind, that's why.
Yeah.
No one has ever thought of this kind of puzzle before.
I guess not. I went the wrong way.
Voila, puzzles don't keep us down.
I have enough health I can just roll through all these fights.
Alright, another little bit tricky instance here. Hopefully targeting works in his favor, and it seems like it went pretty well. And then we're going to...
Come on, thank you. So you can skip that last one, but Merida decided to shoot it anyway, so I said take it a little bit easier and do that.
Yep, she just loves not targeting the platform that you need immediately. Another fight sequence skipped there just by pretty basic platforming, honestly. Just hopping a corner so we don't have to worry about it. You're going to see there Steve focused that top giant there very quickly and was able to get a nice quick kill on it so that he could focus on the boars. So that was a really nice fast sequence there.
That was really nice. Alright, and right here we have probably the largest fighting area for the mom fight, so if you want to go ahead and do your thing again, go for it.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'd like to thank ESA for supporting this marathon. besides providing us with a channel for streaming, they're sharing their gear, their technical assistance, and their sponsors. Be sure to check out ESA's next event, ESA Winter 2021, from the 14th to the 21st of this very month. When I say this very month, I mean next month. We're still in January and it's February.
We'll give you that one. January's only got 2 days. You know, it's close enough.
Man alive, they're trolling hard right now. There we go.
Yeah, just not getting these good sequences on mob spawns for the mom fights, unfortunately. But that's okay. Like I said, it's minimal. And then right after the mom fight here, in just a little bit, we're coming up to the best boss in the game, Steve's favorite.
So right there was another little bit of a fast sequence also. Normally you're supposed to hit both of those, but you can just hit the second one there, the Earth Charm, and it will you can just get up that way.
Yeah, same thing here as he's scaling those platforms. Obviously, the game intends you to hit a few of those Earth Charm platforms so that it makes the jump easier. But Steve can just do some basic double jumping and platforming to avoid having to shoot him, saving a little bit of time. And here comes the bird boss. In all seriousness, this bird boss is a very annoying enemy for a few reasons. One, the bird boss will spawn constant smaller mobs, which are also very annoying. And two, just like all of these other enemies before, an aerial-based enemy is going to be a little bit more annoying for Merida's targeting system. And in addition to that, in addition to all these bird mobs that the bird boss is throwing at us, we're also going to get some goblins, because why not? Yep, there you go. You can see that one almost got Steve, but navigated expertly, so that avoided getting slowed down there. And we're just trying to focus the boss as much as possible. Again, similar thing. If we get the boss down, then the smaller mobs will despawn. But it is just much harder to do when there's a lot more flying, enemies that Steve will inevitably end up targeting. But all in all, a pretty good fight, I'd say.
And get your cause ready,
Mordu's curse is fading.
because this is another you worthless crow. And caw.
Caw.
Oh.
All
right, so we have
Gasm, though. Pretty good.
Oh, I didn't get to it. This is a really hard one to get to before it starts. So we're on to Frozen Lock. This one is okay, except for halfway through the level, and you'll see why when we get up to it. Yeah. It's hard to explain right now until we get to it, but this right here, let's see if I can get it. Okay, we're good.
Sad.
Instead of having to go onto that, the bridge all the way around, you can just skip over it completely. Thank you. Ah!
Yep, and then since we're getting later and later into the game here, you're gonna see Steve use more of a mixture of attacks as opposed to mostly using the bow. You're gonna see, distance enemies, Steve will use the bow, but as they get closer, it's gonna be faster for Steve to use the sword because it's just going to do more damage per second.
Alright, so this is a slower area. If you want to promote something right here as well, you can.
Yeah, we just also want to thank BSG for supporting this marathon. If you don't know, they hold bi-monthly gatherings in the Netherlands. They've supported UKSG from the beginning by spreading the word and providing us with a channel to stream on in past sessions, amongst other things. Make sure to mark your calendars. BSG is celebrating their 5-year lustrum soon on February the 27th and 28th. That's next month, not this month. And BSG Online tour submissions also open up on Sunday. All of these events are streamed on this very channel, so you're not going to need to go very far in order to watch them.
Yeah, so I'm going to let Steve focus here because the platforming can be quite a bit tricky. One, you want to have good RNG placement of the platforms themselves, obviously, but two, as you can see, almost all of these enemies have projectiles. Again, if he is hit mid-air, he will fall where he is. Luckily, he was able to navigate that pretty well and did not get trolled too big. Got a little bit of an attack, but he was already on land, so it didn't really affect anything too much. Nice quick kill there as well. Pretty fortuitous.
Can I make it? I'll risk it. Let's go. Yes.
Yeah, the reason why he was questioning that because if he was not able to make it, he would have had to wait for another platform to come his way. Oh, so close, but that's quite all right. Minimal time lost there.
Woo. All right, here we go.
Okay, so this is the part that Steve was alluding to once we entered the level that's relatively annoying. So you're going to see him hop onto this ice platform here, and this part is going to be a bit on the rails. What Steve is going to be doing for the majority of this time is he needs to clear the icicle in front of him for the platform to move. The reason why this is relatively frustrating is that lots of enemies spawn. So what he'll have to do in order to clear the platform as fast as possible is clear enemies as fast as possible so he can focus on the platform. Now, it might not seem so bad because he was able to clear the icicle fast and it was not a problem. But now we approach and we have 2. And then, as you can imagine, it's just going to keep increasing from there. So again, Steve is going to clear enemies as fast as possible. Luckily, since this platform is relatively small, he's going to be mostly using the sword, which is a little bit faster. And what is also helpful to this is Steve is also going to be prioritizing using his power attacks on the icicles because it's going to be melting them considerably faster. And because we have all these enemies on the platform, he's able to get his power attack back relatively quickly. So it is a nice nifty piece of speed tech in order to do it this way, but it's so on the rails and it's basically this game's equivalent of an auto scroller. There's not really anything you can do about it.
That was okay. Please, don't hit me. Alright, we'll take that.
And then as you can see in the distance here, now we have 3. Good thing is that Steve can start hitting them ahead of time before the platform actually gets there. And then it's rinse, repeat. Kill enemies, get that power attack back, and try and get these icicles down as fast as possible.
Nice. Got one down already.
Yeah, that was really quick to get one down already, which is great. Power attack is coming back relatively quick as well, which is awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
We'll finish this one off.
Yeah.
That was really quick.
Yeah, that one.
That was super quick.
Yeah, the three icicle one, in my opinion, in probably everyone's opinion, as you can see, is the most annoying one to deal with because you're trying to get fast cycles there, and Steve got really fast cycles, so that went pretty well.
Oh, so cold. It must be the blight.
Oh. Alright. On to another mom fight here.
Yeah, we have another mom fight here. We have one more mom fight after this one. I thought this one was the last one, but not quite. But if we do have,
But this one's one of the longer ones.
yeah, so this one is a bit longer. If we have any donations or plugs, now's a great time for that, obviously.
Yeah, just to remind you all that we're raising money to support Crisis, a charity supporting people out of homelessness is good, and they achieve this through education, training, and support with housing and health. 100% of all of your donations will be supporting Crisis, so make sure you get those donations in. We're so close to that $1,000 threshold. We're at $925 thus far. And a little bit more about what they do in their own words. They offer one-to-one support, advice, and courses for homeless people in 12 areas across England, Scotland, and Wales.
Yeah, very important charity for times like these as well. You know, everyone across the world is having tough times with coronavirus and unemployment and things of that nature. So even better now is to get those donations in. We have another triplet puzzle here. Steve is going to be, what the game intends you to do is shoot these arrows in order to create platforms for one of the bears to jump on. Now before, this was a little bit difficult because you were kind of having to eyeball where the arrows go. But as you can see, Steve is going to be aligning the platform there with the notches on the ground. And if he's fast enough, as the second arrow shoots, he will be lined up with the platform there automatically, so he's able to jump relatively quickly. Now he got a little bit unlucky there, but that's quite all right. He's still able to get it done relatively quickly, so we move on.
Yeah, the funny thing about this is when Conception started watching me play this game, I had this really weird way of trying to get through that. A lot more difficult by trying to hit 2 arrows on the same thing to skip sequences, but then I found out that it was a lot easier to just do it that way instead.
Yeah, what he would attempt to do there is kind of like shoot in between, like at the very edge of the target, so that he can just do 1 arrow and then just kind of skip it. But because that was so inconsistent, it's much faster to just line up on the notches and make it go in 1 cycle, as opposed to hoping you land it, and if you miss it, having to reset it. So it's definitely faster the way that Steve does now.
I got double team there.
Yeah, unfortunate, but you know, still carving through these enemies relatively quickly. Again, the strategy here is that whenever possible, Steve is going to use the bow, as enemies have distance and that will spawn far away from him, as this is a relatively big platform. However, if enemies are swarming him and getting close, obviously the sword is going to be the way to go.
Better find a potion.
All right, we're finally getting on to the final area of the game.
Yep, into the ruins. So this is going to be, like Steve alluded to, the last area of the game, and then it will be ending with the final boss. So we're getting relatively close to the end here. Still got a little bit of time. This is, I think it's a bit of a longer level, honestly, but
yeah, this is probably the longest level in the entire game. And this is the last, I believe, the last unskippable cutscene in the entire game.
I love the Lion King.
Just a bit farther, and I'll have ended your curse once and for all.
It's my favorite.
It's got straight Mufasa off that platform.
Yeah.
All right. So,
all right.
Yeah, he's gonna be focusing on platforms here as well. Again, because these platforms are a little bit smaller, he's not gonna be able to just so easily walk through the fire. But based on how he is platforming here, he's going to shoot only the platforms he needs in order to speed things up a little bit. And what he's going to attempt to do as he's platforming is shooting as many of the platforms ahead of time as possible. So, for example, he's going to be focusing on these Earth Charm ones on the side and the one way off in the distance if he can.
Oh, it didn't hit it. Maybe it did. I don't know. I heard something.
It might have hit it. It's really far away, so it's really, really hard to hit. And again, Mario's targeting system is suspect at best. But we're going to get into this chest, which is going to upgrade the sword for Steve, which will be very key for the final boss encounters. And then he's going to hop his way back as well. It doesn't look like you hit it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I did not hit it.
But very close, and it doesn't. I mean, if you're able to hit it ahead of time, it'll save some time. But he could still hit it in advance and not have to worry about it, so it's not a big deal. I believe Steve's health is pretty decent right now as well. Well, maybe not so much now, but so after this little animation, he's gonna kind of do somewhat of a blind jump onto the platform, expertly, of course, in order to be able to move on to the next section. So very well done there.
Whee! Alright, this fight is annoying, but I found a faster way to get through it, luckily. Just go over here and get rid of these guys. The reason I'm going after them really fast is because they can actually troll you pretty hard here by actually going off to the other side and getting stuck. Okay, please. Thank you.
Yeah, boars are somewhat of an annoying enemy in the sense that a lot of their attacks are based on charging, so if they charge across the map, Steve has to go chase them down. So it's a little bit frustrating. So by focusing the boars there, he's able to clear that sequence a bit faster. We have our triplet puzzle here. This is the last one. Yeah, the last triplet puzzle, and honestly, might be the easiest one, at least in terms of how it looks. They're all walled off separately, so it's not like you have to do tricky platforming or anything. It's just about, you know, raising the platform. There's really not much to it at all.
Yeah, they saved one of the easier ones for last, which is very unfortunate. You would think that it would go up in difficulty, but it doesn't.
Voila, no more triplet puzzles.
I'm very grateful for all you've done, lads.
Now please, promise me you'll be careful. There's an evil in this place.
Promise me you'll be careful as they skydive off the side of a building.
I never thought about that. Alright, up here, it's not that big of a thing, but it's just kind of funny. They expect you to jump over it, but they left a little bit of an area over here for you to just roll past it.
Yeah, rolling is definitely faster than jumping. And you can see here there's a gated door here. Steve is going to fire...
what did I do?
Oh, that's alright.
Oh,
That's alright.
there we go.
So he's going to unlock the door to get a bow upgrade here, which will also be very key for the final boss. That the puzzle solution trolled him a little bit. Again, targeting and with Merida is just yikes.
Alright. I'm gonna focus a little bit here, see if I can get a really fast cycle here.
Yeah, so this fight sequence is primarily just giants, so what Steve is attempting to do is use a power-up so that he can clear the giants as fast as possible and get them in the fastest cycle possible. It's somewhat of an extended fight sequence as it relates to small mobs. So it's all about trying to get fast spawns and go in a particularly quick circle so that he's able to, maximize his damage output and clear these enemies as fast as possible using the power-ups necessary.
That was actually really fast.
Yeah, I was gonna say well done. He got like a nice particular spawn sequence and he was able to get right next to the cutscene trigger, which was excellent.
And everybody get your caws ready, because this is the last time that you're going to be able to caw.
Make it count. Make it count, chat.
Caw!
All right, well done. So that is the last caw. Expert dodging there to get through those unavoidable barrels, of course. And we're gonna get up to this platform here for our last mom fight of the run. So if we have any last donations or plugs we want to do before the end, now is the time.
Because after this, it starts to get a little bit more intense or focus heavy.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to remind everyone that if you have Amazon Prime, that means you have Prime Gaming. It gives you one free subscription to a channel of your choice every month. You can use that here on the ESA Marathon channel. You get access to some really nice shiny emotes, but also the money that is raised through those subscriptions help ESA and UKSG to put on future events for you. So if you have Prime Gaming, please consider using it here on the ESA Marathon channel.
Yeah, excellent. I think we're getting a little bit more lucky with spawns here, which is good.
Except for him, of course. There we go.
Yeah, it couldn't go perfectly, but still better than some of the other fights.
That's the most fun mom fight to do, because you just run around in circles and just boost through each one of them. And hopefully you get people coming in that you can hit as well. Alright, so this is... Okay, you might have to start...
Yep, I can take it
talking
over.
now.
Yeah, so we're going to be on a somewhat extended elevator sequence here, and what we're encountering is basically enemies throughout the entire game. So Steve is going to be working to clear out mobs as fast as possible, and you're going to see Steve set up really well here so that he can start shooting enemies as they're spawning if he is able to. And like we had mentioned before, enemies will spawn in the same point every time. So whenever he's able to preempt in order to kill enemies fast before they spawn, he will be able to. This is the only time that we have to fight these exploding enemies in the game, and that is because we need to clear them as fast as possible, as opposed to waiting for them to explode. So this is the only time that we're not able to just simply roll past them and not worry about it. And now you see Steve is just firing arrows into the wall, and that is because he knows an enemy is going to spawn directly in this area on the next round, so he's hopeful to get that enemy down as quickly as possible in order to clear mobs fast. The elevator will not move until all enemies are defeated, and this is obviously the best cycle because we got our friends the Goblins. More Goblins.
That was really good.
Yeah, that was really well done, really quick. None of the Goblins gave him much of a hard time, and the other enemies are really not a factor at all. As the elevator is rising up here, you can see Steve is standing on the edge of it, and that is just simply to avoid having to get the elevator all the way up. He's just going to double jump near the end in order to skip a little bit of the animation.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mum. I just...
So we're really getting to the end parts of the run here, where we're getting up to the final fight. You can see Mordu is going to be kind of behind this platform here. So you would think we'd be fighting Mordu as the final, which we're not really. What Mordu is going to do is going to be throwing his animal boss friends at us. So it's somewhat of kind of like a boss rush in a way. So first one we got is a ice wolf here that Steve's going to take out relatively quickly. Not too much to mention in terms of this enemy, unless he gets, of course, trolled by these boars who want to run him over. But otherwise, there isn't really too much to mention. The wolf relatively stays out of your way and is not like an enemy who loves to run and charge or anything like that.
Come on!
Trolled again by these boars who are just absolutely wrecking him, unfortunately.
Thank you.
If he had gotten attacked by that wolf's ice breath, that obviously would slow him down a little bit. Now, this next one is the most interesting, which is the boar. Before we get to the boar, of course, though, we have these stone pillars that rise up. Steve is just going to hack and slash his way through, and that's how we're quote-unquote damaging Mordu behind the veil there. So he's going to throw the boar at us. Now, the boar is easily the most frustrating of these bosses. However, if done successfully, Steve is actually able to manipulate the boar's movement here. So what he's going to do is going to have the boar charge at him, and he's going to stay kind of close to the side here in hopes that the boar will just follow him around the edge of the map, and he will avoid taking damage from the boar. In addition to that, he's able to just constantly focus fire on the boar in order to kill it quickly.
Yes.
That was excellent. Really well done. And not only was that well done, he's right next to the pillar as well, so it's not like he has to travel far to get to it, which is excellent. So that boar fight was pretty much perfect. Alright, so the next one that he has to deal with is his friend the bird. Who doesn't love the bird, right? Now, if the boar had given him trouble here, Steve could focus on some smaller mobs in order to get his health back. Luckily, like we mentioned, the boar didn't really do anything, so as much as he's able to, Steve is going to dodge and just focus fire on the bird. If for some reason he gets in dire straits in terms of health, he can start focusing smaller birds in order to get some potions, but right now he's in really great shape as long as Merida can target the boss. Looks like he's getting pretty good luck here. The smaller birds are staying mainly out of his way, or if they do get in his way, they drop relatively quickly.
Please? They're almost dead?
Yep.
Please?
Yep. The annoying thing to see is that you can't really check on the health bar of the bird boss because it's so high up on the screen, but still relatively well done, I would say. Pretty quick. And we have just one more stage here after Steve takes out this pillar, which is somewhat of a, I guess you would call it like a stone giant or something. The map changes a little bit where Steve will have to platform up to the boss before he's able to actually fight it. So he's going to...
And time is coming up really shortly here. Time comes up the second that I get the last hit on the last pillar.
Yep, so right after he navigates that, he's going to take out the boss. When that pillar spawns, time will be up, so get ready on time.
Not when it spawns, when I'm done with it.
Yeah, when he defeats the pillar, yes.
Come on!
And as he approaches the stone giant, he's going to be focusing on slashing. Obviously, that just does a lot faster damage.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time.
Not only time, if I am not mistaken, that is a new world record.
That was almost sub 117, but it was a world record.
The marathon luck continues for Steve, and he likes to say the royal gown is his good luck charm, but this one was in the guard armor. So what do you got to say about that?
It's still, I will still always go for the royal gown. But if Merida would have actually jumped up onto that rock, that would have been like first try when I wanted her to. That would have been a sub 117.
Yeah, so close, so close. Really well done, Steve. Excellent run.
Thank you. But anyway, thank you for watching this this run. It was really fun to show off. It's always fun to show off this game. If you're interested, like I said during the run, go ahead and go to the speedrun.com page and hit me up there. I'm also on Discord, on Twitch, and I can just tell you about the game. I run a bunch of other games as well as this. I'm doing something right now where I learn a new speedrun every single month. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and hit me up on Twitch, as well as Conception. He does a lot of fun games as well. So if you want to, go ahead and follow him as well, because he's great as well. Do you have anything else, Conception?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, definitely follow Steve. He runs so many games, like just an alarming amount of speedruns. So yeah, go ahead and follow him. He has a lot of great games. Get your donations in. This is such a great cause that UKSG is raising money for. And of course, just thank you to the UKSG staff and crew for having us on here and showing off this this really fun game, really fun speedrun.
Yeah, congratulations, Steve, on the brand new world record. Thank you, Conception, very much for your incredible commentary. We're going to be getting the next run ready. Pollister is going to be with us running the pedestrian any %. We're going to go to another short intermission, and we will be right back with more here at UKSG.